Okay, the rumors of my death, they have been exaggerated. The rumors of how much it cost me to fix my car have been... Anyway, here we are. What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Like I said, on last week's episode of Min-Maxing for Fun and Profit, we netted about 6 hours unexpected. Ah, the cat has opened the door in the middle of recording. Ah, pip! As my car broke down, and the closest thing I could limp on until I could get it fixed was an hour and change away. Yeah. On the bright side, I got to see my father, so that was cool. But that is also why videos were a little slower, because, again, unexpected road trip. And it's also why we had no video on Monday. Most of my videos are recorded a weekend in advance, but we're here today now for an episode of the Ancestry Anthology. Today, we're going to talk about the Hobgoblin. If you're liking what you're seeing, remember to like, subscribe, and ding that bell. Today, this episode of Ancestry Anthology was brought to you in part by our very newest patron. Y'all keep rolling in. This one actually came in during our battle with the Stag Lord, and I really just love the way Discord announced this one. In fact, it is dangerous to go alone. Take a board kender. That's terrifying, but thank you for your support, my friend. I appreciate it. Here we go. So we have talked about hobgoblins in the past. This video will pertain entirely to Pathfinder 2nd Edition. If you'd like to catch up in 1st Edition, follow this card right up here. In 2e, the hobgoblins are an ancestry of people in transition. They're taller than stronger than their goblin kin, but they look like goblins now. And honestly, that's one of the things I don't really like about 2nd Edition. It's probably the only thing so far that I'd really want to push back against, because I really liked how hobgoblins looked before. Anyway, these guys have a very fierce reputation in the Inner Sea region. It's been upended again by the nation of Oprok. What's an Oprok? Follow this card right up here. The Iron Fang Legion that once stormed through Molthun and Nirmathos only a few years ago made a calculated decision to cease fighting, claim Oprok as their homeland, and seek peace with their neighbors. A nation populated by former mercenaries is now under strict orders to not do a fight. And so the hobgoblins of Oprok are exploring Avestan not for conquest, but for cooperation. Hobgoblins have always structured their society after military hierarchies. Even civilian groups, think farming collectives or trading houses, organize into regiments. Most hobgoblins fixate on social status, and many constantly strive to advance their social position. Hobgoblin punishments are primarily social demotions, or in the cases of like arson or desertion, execution or slavery. Though the hobgoblins of the Inner Sea are not as militaristic as they once were. Hobgoblin veterans hold a high place in their society, usually becoming leaders or advisors. Magic is rarely practiced and often derided, as most hobgoblins don't trust it over the strength of a sword arm. To that end, the only arts of hobgoblin culture really, at least by and large, are sparring matches, weaponsmithing, things like that. Though of course the enforced peace might change this. That's an interesting champion or bard of Shaylin. Perform interpretive dance. Anyway, physically these guys probably look like they did in the 1e video, art aside. However, hobgoblins, by and large, can walk, talk, and hold a weapon in 2nd Edition by the time they are 1 year old, reaching adolescence by 8 to 12 and adulthood at like 14. Mechanically speaking, the hobgoblin has 8 racial hit points, is a medium creature with a base speed of 25 feet. They've got ability boosts to Constitution and Intelligence with 1 free. Man, it sucks that they hate magic. This has Gish written all over it, with a flaw in Wisdom. They have Dark Vision and the Goblin and Humanoid traits. For those heritages, first, Elfbane Hobgoblin, because of course the Hobgoblins were engineered long ago from the unreliable and fecund goblins to be used as an army against the elves. Although the elves ultimately freed them, some Hobgoblins retain ancestral resistance to magic, which is by and large just called elf magic. This gives them the resist elf magic reaction like we talked about in our preview video. With its trigger, you attempt a saving throw against a magical effect that haven't rolled yet, and it's a +1 circumstance to the triggering save. If it's arcane, it's a +2. The Runt Boss Hobgoblin, a long line of hobgoblins who commanded goblins. You're smaller than other hobgoblins, but goblins still listen to any commands you bellow, netting you the group coercion skill feat. If you roll a success on an intimidate check to coerce a goblin, but not other creatures with the Goblin trait. It's a critical success instead. A critical failure is only a failure. Smokeworker Hobgoblins gain fire resistance equal to half their level. They automatically succeed at the DC 5 flat check to target a concealed creature if that creature is concealed only by smoke. The War March Hobgoblin. Should they fail, but not critically fail, to subsist in the wilderness, they can still keep themselves fed with poor meals. While exploring, they can hustle twice as long before they have to stop. So it's the Uruk-hai Fellowship of the Ring is what I'm hearing. The Warren-bred Hobgoblin, when it is underground, may use the Seek action to sense undetected creatures within a 30-foot burst instead of a 15, and gets critical successes instead of successes on acrobatics to squeeze. Not gonna lie, not really in love with any of these. Unless, like, I'm in a group with a bunch of goblin NPCs, then sure. And the first Hobgoblin Ancestry feat immediately turns the way I'm thinking about these guys. Alchemical Scholar. You learn formulas more easily, you gain 4 common first-level alchemical formulas when you take the feat, and each time you gain a level, you gain a common alchemical formula of that level. You still need alchemical crafting to craft alchemical items. You can take this feat only at first level, and you can't retrain into or out of it. Hobgoblin Alchemists did look pretty good. And oops, more stuff. Rich get richer. That's pretty good. Hobgoblin Lore will get you trained in athletics and crafting, as well as Hobgoblin Lore. Hobgoblin Weapon Familiarity gets you the composite longbow, composite shortbow, glaive, halberd, long spear, longsword, shortbow, and spear, and all uncommon Hobgoblin weapons, of which we've seen none so far, I believe. Leech Clipper, trained to capture deserters or leeches. If you critically hit a foe with a weapon from the flail weapon group, you can wrap the weapon around the target's legs and then drop it, causing the foe to take a minus 10-foot circumstance penalty to their speeds until they or their allies disentangle the weapon, which takes 2 interact actions. Remorseless Lash, when you succeed at a melee weapon strike against a frightened foe, that foe can't reduce their frightened condition below 1 until the beginning of your next turn. And Vigorous Health says whenever you would gain the drained condition, it's a DC 17 flat check on a success, you don't gain the drained condition. At 5th level, Agonizing Rebuke, when you terrorize your enemies, you also cause them painful mental distress. When you successfully demoralize a foe, the foe takes 1d4 mental damage at the start of each of its turns as long as it remains frightened and continues to fight you. Masters go to 2d4, Legends go to 3d4. Could be a thing, I guess. Dots are dots. Expert Drill Sergeant, while exploring when you are leading and allies are following, you get a +3 circumstance instead of 2 if you're an expert in that skill. It's a 4 if you're a master. Formation Training says when you are adjacent to at least 2 Hobgoblin allies, it's a +1 circumstance bonus to AC and saves, which goes up to 2 on reflex against AoEs. Hobgoblin Weapon Discipline gets you some critical specializations. At 9th level, Pride in Arms. As a reaction, when an ally within 30 feet brings a foe to 0 hit points with a shout of triumph, you grant inspiration to an ally to fight on. The triggering ally gains temporary hit points equal to their con mod until the end of their next turn. Almost good, not quite. Formation Master, when you are adjacent to at least 2 humanoid allies, not just hobgoblins, by 13th, you gain the benefit of formation training. Hobgoblin allies adjacent to you and at least 1 other hobgoblin get it as well. Hobgoblin Weapon Expertise keeps your weapon proficiencies ticking up. So really what I'm seeing here is an ancestry that makes a wonderful, wonderful alchemist. Grab Alchemical Scholar, keep the formulas rolling, and then just get adopted out and get stuff from other things. Unless you think you're going to be in a party with a bunch of hobgoblins, a lot of this is just not the best, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not sure exactly what I was looking for here, but the Hobgoblin of 1E was one of my favorite races. This feels much like the race does in the Inner Sea, like a race that is trying to find itself. Now, of course, in doing so, that makes a lot of wonderful roleplay opportunities for a hobgoblin and a world with hobgoblins in them, because you have to assume not every roving band of hobgoblins followed Azaersi. You have to assume some of them went rogue. Some of them want to go do their own thing. Peace was never an option, right? To coin a phrase. And certainly if you're not wanting to play one of the more peaceful hobgoblins, being from Tian Sha, being from Kaoling, could set that up for you. Because those guys are still very lawful evil militaristic, par for the course, if you will. Would I still play one of these guys? I would say yes. The buff to con and int is a weird one. Not one you're really used to seeing at all. And it does, despite the fact that these guys have a severe dislike for magic, have Gish written all over it. The wizard fighter, the wizard ranger, the wizard who is just bound and determined to run up and whap you in the head with the quarterstaff. They get buffs to the things they, in one case, want, and in the case of the con, kinda need. Again, though, the alchemist is really shining there, especially as time goes on and more alchemical formula are released. But what do y'all think? Are we rolling up hobgoblins? Are we fighting hobgoblins? Throw it in the comments. Next week, probably the most powerful of the 3 new ancestries, and you'll see why in a week. See you soon, guys.